Hey, everybody. Lieutenant Joe here for the Blue Heart Podcast. So today, I want to talk a little bit about flipping informants. All right. So that's the term we use in law enforcement when you find someone who wants to get out from under some charges or some tickets or something, and they're willing to help you, the police officer, with criminal information. All right. So you flip them and they become an informant. All right. Now, we don't like the term informant anymore. We still all use it, uh, but it's a better term when you go to court is to call these people confidential sources. Right. You say, what's the difference? Why does it make a difference? It does make a difference. When people hear the connotation of the word is what's different. So when somebody hears this is an informant, that sounds like a rat fink. Yeah, somebody who's doing bad stuff, so untrustworthy. They're an informant, right? As opposed to a confidential source. That sounds more official, sounds more professional. And all of these things make a difference when you get to court, right? When you're in there and you're testifying and you're talking about things. If you're talking about confidential sources, it sounds better to a jury and to a judge than saying informant. Informant just has a bad connotation of a word. All right, so what do we use informants for? We use informants, confidential sources, to help us get information about criminal activities that we may not be privy to just as doing our every single day job as police officers. So you might have somebody dealing drugs, selling guns, selling and buying stolen property. You might have somebody who's doing burglaries. You might have somebody who's doing any kind of crime that's in your frauds, credit card frauds, bank frauds, whatever. And you need information to help you focus and begin an investigation. So it can help you figure out what you should be looking at. Where is the evidence? What's going on? And an informant, a confidential source, can be very helpful. So I'm going to talk about how to flip somebody, and then I'm going to talk about how to use them. But I want to go through some terms because terms are always very important to us and how they're used in professional legal documents that we get, affidavits, search warrants, all those kind of things. So we have an episode on informants and creating probable cause. Go back and watch that episode and put all this, you start to put all this together and starts to give you a real wealth of knowledge. So you can go right out and do all kinds of serious police work to get some serious criminals off the streets in your community. All right, so we talked about confidential source. So in a search warrant, we know we don't mention a confidential source's name. We call them confidential source or CS1. So CS1 would be the first person you're using. All right, so John Jones got arrested for shoplifting, or he's got outstanding warrants and fines of thousands of dollars. He's got a traffic violation that is going to lose his license for a long period of time. And he wants to get out from under that. He wants help with those charges, those fines, or to save his license. So he comes to you and he wants to help you out. And he says, listen, I know information about a guy. I'll use drug dealing, but it can be any crime, right? I know guys selling heroin, 123 Main Street. And, I could tell you all about him if you can help me. And you would say, okay, can you go in there and purchase some for us as a confidential source going in and making a controlled buy? So a controlled buy is exactly what it sounds like. The police control the buy by sending in a person who's working for us, an informant, a confidential source, and we send them in to make a purchase. They come out and give us what they bought, stolen property, drugs, whatever it is, to prove that there's a crime going on in there. So this person, CS1, confidential source one, says, well, I know it's going on, but I don't buy from him, but a friend of mine does. And I could probably get him to go with me to go buy something for you. So if that second person is going to come into the picture and work with you as a confidential source or another informant, they would be confidential source 2 or CS2. You would refer to them in all your documents. CS1 says CS1 knows an individual who's going to remain anonymous as well, and he is a confidential source number two. So CS1 says CS2 can purchase from Bill Smith at 123 Main Street, can purchase heroin, and CS2 and CS1 are willing to work with the police, right? We never mention age, gender, anything about our confidential sources. We call them CS1 and CS2. We might have to repeat that. It sounds funny. CS1 said CS1 can make a purchase. CS2 said CS2, because we don't want to give away any of those details to protect our confidential sources. So if CS2 isn't going to come in and work with the police, but he's going to help his friend and doesn't know his friend is working for the police, he would be known as an unwitting source of information because he is unwittingly helping the police. He just thinks he's helping his buddy to go buy heroin. And his buddy says, the only way I can get in there is if I use this guy to get me in there. So he's not going to tell him. You're not going to tell him. That guy's just going to help his friend. He's an unwitting or an unwit. You might see it in the document. He's an unwitting source of information. All right, so you have confidential sources, no matter how many of them you have in a case. You might have multiple ones, CS1, CS2, CS3, CS4, right? And you got to keep track of which one is which. All right, so when we're talking about flipping these people, how do you flip them? All right, so what you're going to find is with younger people, right? Younger people, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, in that age group, their driver's license is very, very important to them. As crazy as that sounds, right? It's very important that they keep their license, right? So you might find them, they got motor vehicle violations, they're going to lose their license, they got an open container of anything like that in the car where they're going to get tickets and lose their license. They are really good potential people to flip. And how do you flip them? Well, if you're going to hand them out the tickets, you don't have to hand the ticket that moment. You just have to document the stop and what they did, and you can write that ticket whatever your court gives you, 30 days, 60 days, whatever it is. So you can say to this person, they say, oh man, I can't get a ticket. I'm going to lose my license. Is there anything you do to help me? Is there anything you can do to help me? Because I can write this ticket for the next 30 days. Why don't you come to the police station and we can talk about it? What do you mean help you? Anything you know about criminal activity going on in town. If you help us, I can help you with the tickets, right? And sometimes they say, okay. Other times they'll say no, and they'll just take the ticket, and that's okay. We don't pressure people, right? Now, this is an important thing to understand when you're flipping someone. They're going to want a deal. Well, you tell me, you guarantee you get me out of this ticket? No. As the police officer, I can't guarantee anything like that. Can't get you out of the ticket. I can't get rid of your fines. I can't put off jail time. None of that happens from the officer. The court does that. The prosecutor does that. You never make a promise that you can do something like that. But what you can say is, well, listen, if you're going to help us, I'll let the prosecutor know. I'll let the judge know that you helped us and that you're looking for assistance. And I've never seen them not do it, but that's up to them, right? You want to make sure you never tell them you can do it, because you can't. Can you go into the court and say, Your Honor, dismiss this charge? You can't. Right. So we want to pay attention, make sure we do the right thing. So that's what a lot of them will ask. Well, I want it in writing. We don't put anything in writing, right? We don't do that when we flip people. You want to help yourself. You're going to come in. You're going to trust me. You do the right thing, and I'll make sure that I let the prosecutor and the judge know. And I've never seen them not help people that do what they say they're going to do. All right. So I'm going to go in depth in a later episode about all the requirements to using a person that you flip as a confidential source. But for right now, let's talk about flipping them. So driver's license stuff is very important. What can we help people get out of? What will prosecutors and judges work with you on? Well, you want to make sure that your court knows you're going to be doing this, right? So go to the prosecutor and say, hey, if we're working with people, are you willing to work with us if we flip them into other jobs? Make sure the judge knows about it, right? And if they're all on board, and they usually will be, because this is a tried and true tool for law enforcement. All right, so we always flip somebody and we trade up. All right, so if somebody has 5 bags of heroin and they want to work for you, well, then you got to get a bundle, right? Because we always go up. We don't go down. I get me somebody with 1 bag of heroin. No, you had 5, you get me a bundle or 2 bundles. I want to get 3 bundles off of somebody, and that's how we work it up. All right, so we never make promises. Driver's license is very important. If you get somebody who's got a lot of fines, see they got $3,000, $4,000 in fines and they can't pay it, and they say, listen, anything I can do to get out from these fines depends on what you can do. What do you know? Now you have to evaluate what they're telling you. So a lot of times the courts will vacate fines if somebody does something to help the police. Now it has to be a good thing, right? It can't be, I got a guy with 2 bags of weed. The court don't want to hear that. But if you can take down, they can help you get information, takes down a heroin guy that's selling heroin, or somebody who's selling guns illegally, or somebody's selling stolen cars, anything like that, something serious like that. Courts will almost work with you every time. And that's why I'm telling you, though, go to your prosecutor first. Make sure everybody's on board. Make sure your administration is on board that you're going to be flipping people, right? So driver's license is very good. Fines, people will often work to get out from under fines. Can you keep them out of jail? Sometimes you can, depending on what they can do, the information they can give you. But what I would say is try and flip everybody and then see if you can work a deal for them. All right. So when you bring them to headquarters, we used to have signs in our jail cells and in our booking room that said, if you have information that can help law enforcement, let the officer know. Maybe we can help you with your charges. We had that everywhere. And they would be in the cell like, what's that mean? What's that mean? Well, if you help us, we can help you. You got information? Yeah, I know a guy's doing burglaries on the south side of town. Okay. And you find out and you get them some help. So these are the kind of things that you look at. Anytime you bring anybody into headquarters under arrest, you should be asking them if they can do something to help themselves. And then you evaluate what they can do, what their charges are, and if it's worthwhile to you and your community to conduct an investigation based on what they're telling you and get bad guys, that's good. So you always go up, right? You always go up. You never go down. You go the same thing. We can't promise anybody anything. I want to be crystal clear on that. You can't promise somebody you're going to do that. The court does that. The prosecutor and the judge do those things. But that's why you get them on board in advance, so you know that, hey, the judge is good about stuff and we'll figure out what it is. What can't you make deals on? Well, usually domestic violence charges. You can't make a deal on domestic violence, and you shouldn't. That's bad stuff, and we don't want to get somebody off for beating up their spouse or somebody else in a relationship. And DWI, drunk driving, is another one that usually the courts don't care. That's a drunk driving charge. You're not working that off. Just about anything else, depending on the information that they have, you can flip them and get better investigations going. We got tons and tons and tons of informants in our PD because when a patrol officer would flip somebody and I was the detective, I would make sure that if there was going to be a control buy, I would get that patrol officer to dress down and come with us. Now, they didn't go in the house, they didn't buy the drug, but they got to come and see what it was like. And then when we did a raid, if we did a raid off of their flip, I made sure they got to come in and go on the raid. Now, once that word got out, all the patrols started flipping. The guys and the girls were flipping everybody because they wanted to do more work. They wanted to do police work. It was exciting. It was fun. So that's a great way to actually do that. Put those signs up in your booking area and in your jail area. Get yourself trained, right? Do some search warrant information. Go see. We're going to have an episode on. We have an episode on search warrants, I think. If we don't, I'll create one. But these are the kind of things that you can do. My wife's calling, so I got to go. I'll talk to you later.